Just hold her. That's it.
Wait a minute, Peter, this is a girl. Should we be doing this?
Michael, just hold her, will you, so I can get the diaper off? Oh!
How can something so small create so much of something so disgusting?
Oh, God.
It's Sunday morning on CBS. And here again is Jane Pauley.
That's Steve Guttenberg in 3 Men and a Baby, a movie that helped make him a box office star some years back. But in the past few days, Guttenberg has assumed a new role. Lisa Ling tells us how he's become the unlikely face of the fires devastating Los Angeles.
It's an important announcement I wonder if I could just make.
On January 7th, as the Palisades Fire exploded, a man interrupted a reporter's live shot.
Thank you for talking to us live, sir. What's your name?
My name is Steve Guttenberg.
Steve Guttenberg, one of the biggest movie stars of the 1980s and 90s.
May the force be with you! And then these cars were going on fire.
He had been moving cars so emergency vehicles could get through. He can't remember how he got to safety.
Thanks, you guys.
So this part of Sunset was just
Stacked with cars. Yeah, couldn't get through. So I was moving some of these cars over there, and then a lot of these cars just didn't have keys in them, locked.
Right.
So it's like...
Many days later, much of his hometown reduced to ruins, he was still there to help protect his and his neighbors' homes.
What is it in you that is compelling you to stay here?
You know, it's not often in life that you feel like you can make a difference. And I really feel like I can make a difference. Like I can, I'm able-bodied, I'm strong. I have a heart and I care. And this is what I'm supposed to do today.
If you know Steve Guttenberg, you know he's a helper. 7 years ago, he put everything on hold to care for someone with whom he was deeply in love, his father.
I'm going to try to get through this interview without crying,
Okay.
because I lost my dad.
What was your dad's name?
His name was Douglas.
Hi, Douglas. And when you say a person's name who's passed, they come around. I believe they're not always with you because they've got other things to do. But Douglas is here.
Yeah.
And so is Stanley, my dad.
Tell me about Stanley. What was your dad like? How would you describe him?
My dad was the greatest. He was the first man who ever held me, first guy I ever looked in his eyes, and I fell in love with my dad.
Guttenberg has written a book about his journey as a caregiver for the man he considers his hero. It's called Time to Thank.
My dad and his dad weren't close. My grandfather was cold. He wasn't a kissing, hugging type of dad to my father. So my dad was the opposite.
A kissing and hugging dad who worked jobs that weren't exactly touchy-feely.
He was an airborne Army Ranger. He was a New York City policeman. He was a power lifter and a weightlifter, and he did handstands for 20 minutes.
His dad was also a hands-on parent. So it was to Steve's surprise that when he wanted to move to LA at only 17 to try to become a movie star, he was allowed to do it.
My parents gave me $300 and said, "You got 2 weeks." And I got a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. And my parents let me stay another 2 weeks, and I got a little movie.
Not liking school is uncooperative?
The Chicken Chronicles.
I got more commercials, and I actually stayed a year before I quit and went back to school.
He wasn't in school for long before Hollywood beckoned him back.
I was at a party in my suite at Albany State and got this call from my agent. Everybody was a little
Tossed.
inebriated. And my agent said, "I got an audition for you." It was called Boys from Brazil. And it was going to be starring Greg Peck and Larry Olivier and James Mason, Uta Hagen.
It's hard to turn that down, right?
Yeah, I asked my dad. My dad said, just go down and do the audition. If you get it, you'll decide. And I got the job.
Guttenberg says it was Laurence Olivier who taught him humility, but it was his dad who helped him get his big break in a little film about a bunch of misfits joining the police force.
You make me sick.
Thank you, sir. I make everybody sick.
I told my dad that I had a screen test coming up for this movie, Police Academy. And he said, "Well, you should wear my Police Academy shirt." I said, "Yeah." And I remember going to the screen test, And I was up against another actor who was really talented. And the director said, "Mac, hold on here, boy. Did you make that shirt?" I said, "No, it's my dad's real Police Academy shirt." And about half a day later, my agent called me and said, "You got it." And maybe it was because of that cadet shirt that my dad gave me.
He made a duplicate of himself from all these spare parts. That's incredible. This guy's a genius.
Guttenberg would go on to become one of the busiest actors of his generation.
Listen to the sound of my time.
With more than 100 films and TV shows under his belt.
This is the deal. Michael, look, you're gonna have to wash where the poop was. Now, come on. All right, come on.
All the while, his dad was there, ready to bring him back to reality, often calling before the rest of LA got out of bed.
You never missed that 6 a.m. call.
No, I always had to be home at 6 o'clock. Even if I got home at 5 to 6, I had to answer that phone. He was my anchor.
So when his dad was diagnosed with kidney failure while living in Phoenix, Guttenberg got in his car, driving 400 miles every week to care for his father.
The drive really gave me time to think and time to thank.
Steve Guttenberg and his siblings even became home dialysis techs, but only he couldn't accept the inevitable.
I gave him a hug. Something didn't sound right. We had a nurse with us, and the nurse put a stethoscope to him. She said, "He's gone." I said, "No." And I started doing CPR on him, and I just couldn't accept it at that moment.
When would you say you finally let him go?
I probably let him go a year later. It's hard to believe that he's gone. I still think that he's here.
He is.
He is.
Just say his name.
Stanley.
And right now, he thinks his father is sending along some helpful advice.
Do you feel Stanley's
Yeah, I
presence
feel
with
my
you?
dad's around. Yeah, I really do. I feel my dad is here with me. And I think he's also saying, "Stephen, enough. Get out of there."
So far, his home is still standing, but Steve Guttenberg says it's time to listen to his dad.
You know, the truth is, no matter how big your house is, no matter how much money you have, how expensive your car, at the end of it, you're walking down the street with a little suitcase of a few things that you saved, and you're looking for someone to tell you where to go.
Yeah.
Right?